The Fly Fifer and Just Another Monkey. Time to backpedal forwards down the rabbit hole.
Right, we're back. We're back with Tony and Alan. We've just stopped for a cup of tea and a stretch of the legs, and we've just shot the shit for the past hour, delving into a wee bit of Tony's past. But we're going to get on with what we come here to hear about today, which is the 12-step process, because Alan and I need to educate ourselves on it. But before I go there, can I just say, Tony makes a mean cup of tea, and it's in a man cup. Mate, that is a man cup. So for anybody listening, this must be like 500ml of tea, like half a pint or no far off a pint or something like that. I don't know.
There's no bone china in here, mate. We don't drink the pinkies.
Aye. No, this is a man cup, I have to say. Good old man cup. Right, anyway, Tony, back to you. Going to let you do a bit more talking this time with the 12-step thing, because I really want to learn it, want to hear it. So it's on to you, man.
Right, so the full 12-step programme ideology is based on the idea that addiction is a disease that we're born with. And when I first got clean, that's what I believed. As I said earlier, I went to my first meeting, my first day clean. My brother took me just into a detox. I was doing a rattle on my mum's couch, and for the first, I walked into the room and I had negative preconceptions about the whole fellowship meeting. But when I arrived at it, it wasn't what I expected, and there was an energy, a presence in the room. I'll come back to that idea, but there was something there. I could feel it. I was lucky enough that I met my sponsor, the guy that was going to be my sponsor, on the bus on the way to the meeting, and I got talking to him, and we established trust with similar experiences and things like that. So I went into the meeting more comfortable than I expected, and I expected it to be a lot of whining and complaining about you can't use drugs anymore and different things, but it wasn't. It was a group full of men, and I mean big fucking football hooligan, drug dealing men. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, I wasn't quite expecting this. And then the wee guy, there's a format to a fellowship meeting. You've got a chairperson who holds the meeting and holds the space, and then they've usually got a top table share where somebody speaks about their experience. Then you break for have a cup of tea and a fag and that, and go back in, and then they open the meeting up to the room. And when this wee guy done his share, he could tell me things about myself that I'd never spoken about. Do you know what I mean? No just life events. It wasn't just about identifying my life events, but also how I felt. Do you know what I mean? He could explain he could express emotions that I was familiar with. And I spoke at that meeting. I felt comfortable enough to actually speak. And I said my brother was with me all the way through it. He supported me all the way through when I first got clean. Still new, he still does, but then I just followed him about and done what I was told. And I went to meetings after that and done them religiously. And about a month and a half in, people were saying, get a sponsor, do the programme, all that stuff, the usual advice. And that's what I done. I asked the guy to be my sponsor. He agreed. We sat down and had a coffee, and next thing you know, I was doing the programme. And because of the energy in the room and because of how I felt, I bought into that, the whole disease ideology, because it gives me a label, right? See, if you spend your whole life knowing there's something wrong, but not able to identify it, and somebody gives you a label and said, this is definitively what's wrong with you.
Yeah, it's a square in a circle.
I'll make it fit because it's the thing. I've got a label now, so I understand. I'm 34 years old. I've been confused about who I am all my life, and now they've gave me this label, and I jumped on it, and I held on to it, and then I started doing the programme, and I started to, obviously, I'm still no torn about it. There was good elements of the programme and elements I completely don't agree with, and I think need to be revisited. So, in a sense, the programme's good for developing self-understanding and unloading baggage, and as you get to that step 4 point, step 4 is what breaks people. Do you know what I mean? So you can break a 12-step programme down into basically 3 segments. You've got your introductory steps 1 to 3. You've got your action steps.
What's the introduction? Is that just a basic? I'm Tony, and this is my journey so far. This is my past. You bear with me 2 seconds. I'll go and get the book.
Okay. Grab it. So Tony, just while you're getting the book, is that general addiction or was it anything specific?
think with anything like that, is there anything?
There's different fellowships, right?
Aye. So you're there because of a specific, or are you there for the spectrum?
I was pretty much there for the spectrum,
right.
Because, as I said, I was a polydrug user, so I didn't have a drug of choice.
Right.
My fellowship was Narcotics Anonymous. I know there's different fellowships. It all bases off of the AA ideology developed by Bill W. and Dr. Bob back in whatever.
Dr. Bob.
Dr.
Bob. Got to be a fucking Bob.
Bill W. and Dr. Bob, who came up with the disease analogy, and said that they had an allergy to alcohol that made them compelled to use it, which didn't make any sense to me. Right? And to me, right, when I look back on it, it was a way of alleviating guilt and shame, because every drug addict, and when I say drug addict, I mean alcoholic as well, because that's a drug, right? So it's all the same blanket. We all do things we're ashamed of and not proud of, and it's difficult to take ownership of them. But if we can find something to sugarcoat that and sort of justify it, it makes it easier. So if I've got a disease that I'm powerless over and I'm constantly battling against, I'm no fully responsible for my life choices. That didn't sit with me. I couldn't. My sponsor was adamant that I was determined to give myself a hard time, because he used to tell me it was Tony the addict and not Tony the person that done these things. And I said, I get that, I would make different choices now, but at the same time, I still made those choices and still done those things. I need to take ownership of that. And it was a discrepancy that we never really resolved. He still have a certain mindset, and so am I, but we're still good friends. Do you know what I mean? It's just we have a different perspective. But to give you an idea of the 12-step program, right? So you've got different versions of it. The AA version is just basically a book that you refer to, whereas a 12-step working guide for the NA took me 18 months to complete, right? And it's a fucking hard slog, man. It's no, look, I've seen people take this on, and they're all flying through the first 3 steps, and then they get to step 4 and they tap out because they're not ready to take it on. So if you're going to go down the 12-step route, I would strongly advise that you were ready in a place where you're emotionally ready to take this on, because it's a big journey. As I said, it took me 18 months, but let's look at it, right? So step 1, we go to step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction and our lives had become unmanageable. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. And that's just basically talking about why you used, where you are, how you feel, and just getting you used to cultivating some self-awareness and talking about who you are and getting you used to opening up and establishing trust, right? And that continues. That's pretty much the theme for the first 3 steps. Where are the next one?
So see where you're saying that they're getting something that they're making you take it back in, where they're sugarcoating it. Are they sugarcoating it in the sense that you're going to swallow this? Do you know what I mean? As in you're rebelling against it, but they want you to swallow that and admit it. So technically, you're not actually getting it out there. They're actually making you fucking take it in and absolve it into your own yourself. Whereas mine's, and I think yours is now, that the bag is shite. You bring the bag round, right? Okay, it's there. That's what it is. And then they're like, right, okay, you keep that. You own that. That's yours. And where I'm saying, chuck it fuck.
That was the problem, right? That was an issue for me, right? That was an issue for me because
that's what I wanted. I noticed that you had said that. No, I didn't agree with it.
No, well, I don't. No, because it's that I know people have done the fellowship meetings for 30 years, and they stand up and say, "My name's Tony. I'm an addict," or whatever their name is, and they revisit things and rehash out things that happened 20 years ago. Sometimes you talk about things that are more relevant and more recent, but it's still that they're still revisiting those same mindsets and emotions, and still the same labels, and
still living it.
It's still living it. They're still in it, and it's like, how long do I need to be clean before I can say, well, I'm not an addict anymore? Do you know what I mean? Because
that's a big one for us.
Is there ever an evolution point where this stops being and I get to become something new? Because when you go to fail, that the mindset they've got is you're always going to be an addict.
That's the confusing thing, because I know you, or what I know of you so far, and even in this short time that we've spent together, I know that that's no you, because you've ditched that a long time ago. So my thing is, why did these fuckers want to do that? But yeah, so
well, it's because it brings them comfort. It brings them comfort because they've been to this room, right? They understand that there's power in there. They felt this energy that's in the room, and it's the room. The energy in the room is a collective consciousness of everybody in the room. Everybody emits an electromagnetic frequency or an aura, right? And that can charge a space and create healing spaces, right? And when you walk into a fellowship meeting, everybody there with a similar ideology, and they're all there for the same purpose, it energises the room. You feel it when you walk in, it charges it, it's there, right? So it's tangible, it's a real thing. And then they give you this label that says, you've got the disease of addiction and this, and they explain it. And because you've been lost in your own mind for that long, it makes sense and gives you an identity. And when you get an identity after not having one, it's a really powerful thing. And not just that, when you start doing meetings, you start coming about and you start doing the right things, and you're doing the 30 for 30 and you're collecting key rings, and people are supporting you and talking to you in a way that you've never really been spoken to before. It rehumanises you.
Yeah, patting you on the back when you're getting your token badge or whatever.
You're no worthless anymore.
Yeah.
And it's an important part of the transition, is moving from being worthless to worth something. That's a big part of it. But the feeling of energy when you walk in the room, then being given a label, and then people rehumanising you by the way they're engaging with you, is a combination of really powerful things. And it gets to the stage where people believe that the only ability they have to get clean is through holding on to this ideology that sometimes doesn't make sense. But
it fits, it suits for now, so I'll
I can only speak for me. I know people that do meetings religiously and they still find a lot of comfort in them. Me personally, I got to a stage where I didn't want to talk about drugs anymore. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to talk about things.
Tony, that makes so much fucking sense.
Every time I've got my shit. Let's put my shit T-shirt on. It's fucking humming. I could do with getting rid of this, but no, put it on.
But I wanted to, not just that. I was going through the counselling process. I'd already had discrepancies with the 12-step program that I'll go into, but I was going through the whole counselling process and learning about counselling. And as I was speaking about my issues, I realised that it didn't make sense. But also, I wanted to speak about things that I couldn't speak about at meetings, because I know everything's anonymous and everything's enclosed in the space and it's a place of safety, but people still talk about you. Do you know what I mean? And if I want to speak about how pornography addiction affected me as an 11-year-old child, I can't speak about that at a meeting. I need to speak about that somewhere else.
Somewhere else, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So the restrictions there in an open fucking space.
So there's some restrictions there, right? But not just that. If I want to evolve emotionally and become a different being, a different entity, I can't do that there, because they'll try and pull you back with it. Oh, you know what I mean? You're losing perspective.
Time and a place for that one.
Well, not even that. It's like, oh, that's a disease, or he's lying to you, or whatever else. Do you know what I mean? You're always
pacify you with something.
Aye, so there's a different ideology, and
a plaster,
and it works for a lot of people, because, as I said, they cling on to it because it gives them identity and purpose and identification and all this other stuff. But for me, it didn't cut it anymore.
It's fake, isn't it? I mean, even that, to deny your own self, you can't. How can you be one with your own self if you've got to leave 10% lying there? You're no fucking one. You're no.
You're not allowing yourself to fully evolve, right? But you've got to remember, they came up with, like, Bill W and Dr. Bob came up with a 12-step program or something in 1927, right?
It's that old.
So it's that old. It's old, though. Do you know what I mean? No, it's really old. So we've made massive developments in understanding the human condition since then. Do you know what I mean? We understand how the conditioning process works, the benefits of emotional evolution, the power of labels, the power of words, all this stuff. We know stuff they didn't know then. So I think, although there are elements of it that work well and are really, really beneficial, a lot of it needs to be revisited with modern knowledge.
100%.
Right.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
It makes fucking more sense to me. 1927.
Yeah.
And it's still taking 12 fucking steps. it doesn't. Honestly, I didn't do it. If we've not evolved that fucking fast that you can do it in 3, where is the evolution in this?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's take it. See if you took the parts of this that actually worked, right, and revisited them and restructured it. I think it would be a fantastic thing, right?
But what would you get, didn't you? How many steps?
I don't even know if you would need steps.
Right.
I don't even know if you need steps.
Yeah.
I would just be like, because you understand there's an issue there. You understand there's problems in your life, right? And for me, again, it's back to the justification thing. So if I done shit things throughout my youth, and I'd done really selfish, horrible things that I had to go and face, right? And for me, taking ownership of those things without blaming a disease and relinquishing responsibility was really powerful.
Yeah.
Because it redefined my moral compass.
That's the
one. As horrible as it was to take ownership of those things, I know how I felt about doing them. Yeah. So there's less chance of me doing it again. Yeah. But if I've got a disease that sugarcoats it and says, well, I wasn't quite responsible, then...
Oh, that's the disease. That was the disease.
The disease won that day. Do you know what I mean? It's your only claim for the day. The disease could always... There's always a chance the disease is going to beat you. So just take each day as it comes, right? So say, for example, I wanted to use and I had the belief that I've got a disease, I could very easily say, well, the disease won, and I've relapsed and use it to justify my life choices. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same as, like, am I supposed to say, like, I dipped my ma's purse, or robbed this person, or done that, or I believe my wee brother, or done whatever shite thing it was, and then I'm going to go back and do my step 9, which is your amends and apologise for what you've done. So on one hand, you're apologising.
My name is Errol.
Well, so on one hand, you're apologising. I'm saying, okay, I'm sorry that I've done this. But on the other hand, you're saying, but I've got a disease, so I wasn't fully responsible anyway, which was sort of contradictory to me. It didn't make much sense. So it was different discrepancies in it. But the big one in the 12-step programme for me was, look, I'll get to step 4 in a minute, but we spoke about this when we took a break. We're talking about the whole God concept of the 12-step programme. And I've heard people say that God isn't really involved in it, right? And it's about a higher power. It's no, the wording's very clear. It's about God. And that was a big issue for me, a big challenge. I was brought up Roman Catholic, confession every Saturday, chapel every Sunday, all that type of stuff. I had very negative connotations of the word God. So we had to discuss it. And I think it's step 3 where they ask you to choose between your will and God's will. And that's where me and my sponsor had a conversation, and it's never been answered because there isn't really an answer to it that fits the programme.
Programming.
Well, what I was saying was, right, the way it's worded here is God is a man, and it's very much the traditional biblical creator God, and that's what I spoke to my sponsor about. I was like, so we had our own ideas about what God was and about universal energy and stuff, and we agreed on it, but we thought from a 12-step perspective, this was very much the creator God, and my sponsor agreed, and it came to the conversation, did God make mistakes? No. So God was the creator, God didn't make mistakes, and I was born an addict, right? So if I was born an addict, that was God's will, and God doesn't make mistakes. So if I wanted to be anything other than an addict, was that no an act of self-will over God's will, which I'm now finding is bad? So there was contradictions across the board for the whole thing, do you know what I mean? So
it's good that you spotted them for yourself.
See, in that one itself, because if it is the divine that gives you free will and it makes you want to be, you're going to be an addict. Mm-hmm. What is the purpose? What is the purpose is for you to fucking challenge it. And then how do you know it's for challenging? Because he's giving you free will for you to decide for yourself. And on the God word in itself, because everything, GHD, PTSD, all these abbreviations, take God as one. And this was one that I worked out a long, long time ago. It's a giver of divinity. It gives you the divine right to preside over anything you fucking choose. I've had that for a long, long time, and I believe in that myself. Whatever it is that I do in life, my fucking choice. I'll answer to him. If there's a hairy-faced man sitting in a cloud saying, "Oh, naughty, naughty, naughty," I know he'll judge me on that. But he's given me free will that I can do it. But if I do it and it's wrong, and I then admit that it's wrong, and I go back and revisit it and say, do you know what, that was fucking wrong, I put my hands up. That's that same thing of justification. So it's a tiny wee circle. It's no vicious. So you going back and revisiting, dipping your ma's purse, doing whatever you've had to do in order to sustain that. I didn't believe in the disease thing, the poisonous thing. It's what you chose as your escape. So you've already listed how many you had, but it's whatever it is that you revisit it, you own it, you dissect it, you do that whole thing what I'm talking about, you take it into the autopsy room, and when you can justify it to you that yes, that was me, it was selfish, it was this, that and the other, and I've learnt for that, so that wee nugget of information, I'm going to keep that. I will not fucking do that again. And if I see somebody else doing it, I'm going to be the gentleman and pass it on, because it's knowledge.
But it's when you talk about the whole, what was it you said there? What was it you said? You said something about
I talk that much.
You said something there, and it woke a thought up in my mind, and I can't hang me, I can't hold on to it. So we'll come back to it.
If it comes back, just jump it in.
When it comes back, I'll jump in. Right? Yeah, I'll go back to this and now, right? So you go through the first 3 steps, right, and you get comfortable speaking about yourself, and you've established a relationship with your sponsor, and you've came to an idea of what God is, and there's a divine purpose for us all, and all the rest of this stuff, right? And it sugarcoats and eases you in. Then you come to step 4, right? Now, step 4 is without a doubt the most beneficial and painful part of this whole adventure, right? So
go and read us that, because see these wee quotes, they're fantastic.
These are your steps, right? So step 2, we can't believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. So that's your
restore us to sanity. which tells you that what is they're going to go along the lines that it's you're insane. You're not of your own thought process. Whereas and I know you do. You owned that process. It's just it was your choice. You chose to do that. So you can't say, "Oh, it was a disease. Oh, it was an addiction." Fuck off. You done it. You done it.
But that's exactly the point. I used to have this conversation with my sponsor all the time, but we'd never agree on it. We still don't agree on it. And it's because I done all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's just it was choices that I made. But actually, the step 2 is your restoration to sanity, right? Then where are we? There's a lot of pages, right? So step 3, right? So this is the one, right? So this is where the conversation took place. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him, right? That was the step where I first started asking questions, right? So I started having doubts in step 3 and pushed through it. But step 4 is the beginning. It's when the actions. This is the first of the action steps. Is step 4, right? We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, right? And that's you looking at who you are.
An inventory, right?
Aye,
okay,
so
right.
You're writing down everything about you, right? Every shit thing you've ever done, right? All the negative thoughts, all the things you never share with. This is where your darkest part of you comes out, and you speak about it to another person. So this is where I started to revisit the whole
Every
and well, it wasn't even that. It was every bit of me, but it was revisiting that relationship with another guy and make myself vulnerable. That I found it took a lot for me to do this, right? Because I never had that with my dad. Every male influence I had was sort of negative up to a point. Do you know what I mean? Pretty much. And now I'm sitting as a grown man that's never been in this situation before,
I get it.
and I've got to bare my soul to this other human being. Do you know what I mean? So, but this covers everything. It's not just about addiction. This is
how far into the program are you by the time you hit stage 4?
that's step 4.
Yeah, how far in?
About 4 months.
4 months.
4 months.
Month
How
of
long
step.
did it take you?
Weeks.
Again, weeks, if not days,
Aye.
to bare his soul and
Aye.
just admit, you know what, fuck it all.
So this is so 4 months. It took me 18 months to do this fucking book, mate. 18
Wow.
months, right? And it's a month of step we done, right? It's a month of writing, and then I share it, and then I process
How
it.
often's your meetings?
Meetings are daily.
Daily.
Meetings
Oh,
are
so
daily.
you do them, all right,
Meeting.
okay.
And that's what's encouraged. You do meetings, but every day.
So it becomes a formula, a format that every day you can go through the steps, and each step is there to guide you along through the path.
Oh no! Each meeting is about. It's just basically a share where somebody shares their experience, and it's like a gathering of people who get to speak about where they're at and
So
how
you get
addiction affects.
comfortability,
Aye.
yeah.
So it's about you to establish a support network, is what they call it, right?
Where you become comfortable in your
You
own
become-
skin that you think, well, right, okay, I'm going to let it go.
But it became almost what I saw as it's like a gang hut where people came all knew each other, and it was like very cliquey and different things. So there's different, although it's meant to be a healing space, it is very cliquey, and if your face doesn't fit, there's certain pods of people.
Mine is the peacock. That's how I describe it. As you go into the bar, you stand in the bar, and the guy next to a peacock, and all right.
But
all
you
right.
get that at the meetings as well, right?
Right.
People call it the Hugo Boss recovery. Do you know what I mean? Because they turn up, they get themselves together, and they turn up with all the designer gear on. Do you know what I mean? They're
It's just the phallus, the whole fakery, the whole veneer. The veneer's up, and it takes you a fucking long time to knock that veneer. And that's why, to me, this whole 12-step thing, I reckon you can knock that down. Because to me, if it's two guys shooting the shit, if I come in and I'm open and honest with you, and I give you my eyes, you can have a look. There's nothing to hide. I'm no trying to deceive you in any way. Have a look inside. If you can see yourself, you think, no, I can see a bit of myself in this cunt. I think he's honest. And that's the thing. When it's the shades and the boss and all the bling and everything else, it's all distraction. So you're going to take fucking 4 steps just to get through to the guy that's actually hiding behind the wall, the veneer that's there, and he's puking over a thing. Didn't want to come out yet. Do you know? It's that whole thing for me.
But a lot of people that take this on, right? One of the things I found was a lot of people at meetings talking about 12-step programs and how you should do this and giving the advice. Didn't make it this far.
Really?
They got to step 4 and they crumbled.
They didn't want to
They didn't
do
want to do it
Wow.
because you're looking at everything in here. You're not just looking at drug use. You're looking at acts of violence, ripping off your family, manipulation, sexual conduct, how you treat women, all that. Everything comes out in this step, right? All the darkness, every dark thing you've ever done, everything that makes you feel shit comes out here. And I actually had to go back and revisit this because I was going through the counselling part, and there was parts I didn't speak about in the programme that I left out because I will just gloss over that. I spoke everything else. That bit doesn't count. Came back like a fucking boil inside my brain. I had to go and lance and go back and speak to the guy. I phoned my sponsor up, Greeting, and I was like, look, mate. I was like, this is where I'm at. He's like, go back to meetings. I was like, I can't go back to meetings because I can't talk about this at meetings. I can't. Meetings only bring me any sort of comfort here, but I need to let this out. He's like, write it down, come down to mine, we'll share it. And I sat in this, going for a place where I didn't feel comfortable being vulnerable in front of another man, right? I sat in this guy's house, and it was that, but I knew it was coming. It was that bad. It was that bad. I took chocolate and cakes with me just for emotional support, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm blubbering, I'm greeting, and I'm saying the darkest parts of me to this guy out loud, and he fucking laughed at me. He's like, do you think that you're the person that thinks that? He's like, that lives in my head too. I'll tell you what I thought this morning. And he told me, I was like, well,
did you know that's where I would say that the same thing, the reaction to me is if you bust and you give me that, and I say, well, what do you want, a badge, a balloon, or a fucking hat? Do you want all three? You know, it's no, but we seem to carry it with this fucking weight that we think, can I divulge it, and then when you've done it, you're like, bingo.
It's done.
I'm not the only asshole carrying this same shite.
Well, I came to the conclusion, right, a long time ago, that see if I've thought it, I'm not that fucking special. Somebody else has thought it. A multitude of people we're all very similar creatures, right? And we're all fucking primates, right, with the same brain. So it's a guarantee if I've thought it, somebody else is thinking it too. But not just that, they're fighting the same battles. But Sadhguru, right? Do you ever watch the Sadhguru stuff? Right?
I don't know.
Right, Sadhguru is an Indian mystic, right? He's an Indian mystic, and what he said is, we can ignore everything in our life, the whole universal splendour, every good thing we've ever had, because we've got one nasty thought crawling through our mind, and we think we can't speak it.
It's a worm. And Pink Floyd.
And it fucking becomes overwhelming.
Brain,
and it becomes this. You focus on this thing, get tunnel vision. It becomes overwhelming. And next thing you know, nothing else exists. There's nothing else good going to happen because you're caught up with this thing. And the more I realise that,
you from the inside,
and that just becomes your focus. But the thing is, for me, it was like the monsters in your head are only monsters till you open the box. And see, when you open the box,
it's you that fucking feeds them.
That was it. But see, when you open the box, you find out that it's just a fucking gerbil with a flashlight looking for a circuit breaker. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is.
There is a story that years ago that the people that lived in a cave, that they looked towards the light that was shining in the cave, and they saw these things, and it turned out it would be like when you imagine it's a moose, but the sun is reflecting it into the cave, and it looks massive. So they think da. And that's what it is, because in my story, what I'm saying in the wee booklet is that by the time I opened the doors and I thought, right, let's fucking do this, we're going for this. So you've got that one there that deals with that trauma, you've got that one for that trauma, and I just visited every cell door and I opened them up, and what I ended up with this cowering wee fucking thing, this wee bald knee-haired bastard that's lying in the corner. And eventually I said, you know what, I took the doors off in my own house, in the physical world. I took the doors off, and my wife says, no, I want you to paint. No, I redone the hinges, redone the handles. She says, no, I want to paint behind the hinges. And I'm behind the fucking, who the fuck is right behind the hinges? Peace of mind for her. So I'd done it, and that to me was me doing a whole renovation on the prison that I had formed inside my mind. I'd opened every door was open, and now turned it into this place where you could go and visit, become an attraction, a visitor's attraction. And the wee things that were there, I'm saying to them, look, fuck off, just go. You know what I mean? You didn't, you're no serving me anymore, because I've owned them for that long. That when I was younger, I would tiptoe past the door so I didn't awaken these big fucking scary monsters. When I was 21, I opened the door and I locked the door behind me, and I gave it to old Kenny Rogers, coward of the county. No cunt's leaving until this is done. And I'd done it, and yes, it was a mess, and he'd ended up everywhere. I've got psychiatrists shining torches up my arsehole looking for a brain, and you're like, you know what, fucking, this is what it is. This is how I had to deal with it within myself. But then and again, there it's there, I had to deal with it within my cell. That was in the cell. It wasn't the self, it was the cell. It was the prison that I had created, where I housed these fucking demons that I thought on me. Then, as time went on, and I'd passed over that big fight, as I walked past, it was them that were cowering behind the door. They were scared of me because I owned the jail by then. I was the governor, and it was my choice to walk in there. Again, it's a deviation for that, but it's amazing how they're so fucking linked, that you have to face these demons, these big, big, scary bogies. You keep them in a box, I keep them in a cell. Means they're maybe bigger than yours, I don't know.
Well, I remember when I first got clean, right, and I was going through the whole emotional turbulence thing, and I remember people were talking about the addict being pushed to the back of the mind, but it always existed, right? And you ever seen the film Bronson with Tom Hardy?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember the bit where Bronson's in the cell and he's singing "Please Release Me"? He's in the cage. I imagined that was the wee addict at the back of my mind singing, rattling the door, waiting to get out, right? That's what I thought, right? This fucking animal at the back letting out, right? But the more I went on, it's just layers of self, do you know what I mean? So I remember...
Strip back down, you know.
Right.
I remember it was a guy called Henry Curran, right, and he was the first guy to introduce me to Sadhguru. But what he said was, does your spirit have a religion? And I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, think about it. He's like, does your spirit have a religion? And I was like, I don't know what you mean. He's like, that's your conditioned self in you. There's you. He's like, are you your thoughts? Because at the time I thought my thoughts and me were still the same thing, and they're no.
Right.
And what he said was, see, when he's like, try and watch for your thoughts coming, I guarantee you they stop. Because at the time I was talking about an overwhelming, noisy mind that wouldn't silence, and he was like, look, he's like, try and separate yourself from your thoughts. And see, when you think about it, you know, that's just a fucking computer. You tell what information's relevant, so that's all it is. So you whatever goes through you, you're not 100% responsible for your thoughts, because your thoughts are fucking random. So it doesn't really matter. Obviously, you can have conscious thoughts where you control what you're thinking about, but everybody has mad, intrusive, fucking unexpected thoughts at any given moment of the day. Do you know what I mean? Like, kick that pencil down the escalator, or snatch that cunt's wig off, or whatever it is, whatever nonsense goes through your nut. Do you know what I mean? So, for me, that was a really just realising that was even like thinking about using and all these other thoughts, that wasn't me. It was another part of me deeper down that I had to make the disconnects, had to separate myself from that, so I could see it for what it was.
So see the wee guy in the back of the cage, the addict that wants out, he wants out. Do you still recognise him? Is he now? Have you now encompassed him as part of who you are?
He's part of myself. Right?
So everybody that's our monkey.
Everybody, but again, everybody's got a monkey, right? And it's funny you should talk about that, because it's like, see when you go to the whole yogic philosophy, right? The yogic philosophy talks about what they call a monkey mind. The monkey mind is a mischievous part of the brain. Or the dark, enable. Right? So they've got the monkey mind, the shadow self, all these different elements of self, right? Yep. So it's a positive, negative aspects of humanity. Do you know what I mean?
The yin and the yang.
And a lot of the time we are in conflict with ourselves because we don't want to accept the darker half. But the fact is, see, as soon as you encompass that, because it depletes you. You can't. It's a battle you can't win. It's like the whole yin and yang symbol, right? So people think that darkness is trying to destroy light, or light's trying to destroy darkness, but it's not. It's a dalliance. It's a dance. They're trying to find balance. Do you know what I mean? And it's that you can't have one without the other. So for you to be in conflict with your mind all the time doesn't make any sense. It's about accepting that part of you exists and just getting on with it.
That's again where the conditioning and programming comes in, because they will program into this other side where the monkey or the flunky monkeys and junkies, it doesn't matter what label you put on that other split of you, which is the white over the dark, it's in there. But they too are doing this merry dance around something. That to me is the self. That's the smallest part of you, the original innocence that was there until it got fucked up with either a 4-year-old, boom, punch in the face, or an 8-year-old kicking the arse, or whoever mine was at 7. It doesn't really matter what it is, but it's the two things that are there, is one becomes suppressed because, was it you or something? No, it was the one you were talking about. You had showed the wee thing where you get embarrassed by it. Yeah, because the monkey wants to climb the tree, but Daddy will tell you, you fucking fall out that tree and I'm not taking you to the hospital. Well, I better not go up the tree. And the monkey's like, what are we playing it here? What are we doing?
But it's all part of the conditioning process.
Of course it is. That's what I'm saying. And you suppress that side of it. So when you do, and that was one of the things I always wanted to ask you, was that when you suppress that side and you know you've got the I want the drink, I want the drugs, whatever it is, do you identify with what comes over and above that? Because the next again day, now I know that you own both parts of it because you've admitted that. But if it was the drugs, say you've taken the heroin, who comes out? Who is induced by the heroin? Is it you or the junkie, i.e. the monkey that's now fully heroin? Does he come out like, oh, for fuck's sake, man?
Well, when I used heroin, it was a bit of sense of comfort, right? And it's lovely the way you've said that there, because it ties me back into the bit that I forgot, right? That I was got the point I was going to make that fucking left my mind, right? So no matter what drug it is, I don't care about your drug of choice is, or whatever it is, right? What you're really chasing is a dopamine cycle, right?
That's it.
So what's happened is you found something powerful enough to distract you from feelings and experiences you're trying to avoid, right? So it doesn't matter if it's heroin, cocaine, whatever else. What matters is it's strong enough to capture your interest, right? So you fall into that cycle of want and obsession and compulsion to act on it, right? So say for example, like, it's the same when you meet somebody you're attracted to, right? Say you meet a lass you're attracted to, or whatever you're attracted to, you go from knowing that person exists to thinking about that person to the point of almost obsession until you ask that person out and it reaches the conclusion, right? And that's your dopamine cycle. And that's what happens when you watch porn, that's what happens when you use drugs, all this same stuff. you know there's a distraction there. There's something there that captures your interest enough to distract you from all that stuff you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And you're chasing that constant cycle of dopamine. Like your high doesn't start when you get high. Your high starts when you start thinking about what the process is.
That's it. It's a climb.
Aye, so it's
Hannah
like,
Montana.
so what do I need to do? Do I need to go? I need to score. I need to go and shoplift. I need to do this.
That's
It's
it. There's
all
a
the
cycle
thing.
that leads to the end. Yeah, the end result. So it's climbing the mountain to find the prize at the top. But what I'm saying to you is, with myself, I would engage, or how I perceive it, because mine is totally different because it started a long time ago, where I let the monkey out first. So you've got the asshole, and the computer reference is a good one because it brings the Mr. Chimp paradox. You, as in the asshole, just the idiot. The monkey wants out. He's fucking kicking the cage. So you go into standby, but the way that you go into standby mode is by the induction of the mind. And that induction, whether it be glue, hash, you know what I mean, heroin, whatever it is the key that unlocks the monkey. The monkey comes out, but unfortunately, whatever you've gave him, he's fucked anyway. So when he comes out, he's kind of wobbling. You know, he wants to go and meet the bird. So he'll be all right, dog, and he'll feel her ass and piss her off. The next day, standby's come back on. The asshole's back in charge, and he's looking at the monkey and saying, "Oh, fuck, what happened last night?" Because it was him, but he wouldn't have done that had you no used the drink or the drugs. Does that make sense to you?
Aye.
Yeah,
Aye, definitely.
See, these are the things why I want to come and talk to guys like yourself that have walked a path, because I didn't know myself in the 12-step program. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it because my mind and the monkey will no work it out why it takes 12 steps. And if it's been since 1927, but you're giving me enough of an insight that I can work it out because you're even questioning it yourself, even though you've been through it. So it makes sense to me. It validates my thought process.
But not even that, as you're saying, lets the monkey out, because it gets to a stage. Well, that's why they talk about an inhibitor. Like it takes away your inhibitions and it lets you let that at least part of that other side of you out. You wouldn't normally let out. You open the door and a bit of it seeps out, and then the next day you've got the fear or that guilt or that shame, and you need to live with it. And you know what I mean? So, and then that's what starts the cycle.
So you take the left hand brain, the right hand side of the brain. Now you watch what I'm doing. This is my right hand. This is the right side. This is the left side. But you know already that there's a pineal gland in the middle. So if I take the monkey versus the man, I call him the asshole. He'll know let this thing out. When he does let it out, he's induced it. But in the back, in that pineal gland, the thing with the serotonin, melatonin, all these wee things, it's the wee guy hiding behind the wall. Like, fucking look at these fucking pair of idiots. They're going to fuck it up for everyone here.
Well, see if you look at
that then brings in your split personalities.
Well, but see if you look at it, and from another perspective, you look at it from Freudian psychology, right? You've got the id, the ego, and the superego, right? So, the id is the monkey, right? The shadow self, right? And the superego is the higher self. That's
Hugo Boss.
That's the person with the kaftan on and the beads, fucking chanting, right? That's the prophet. That's the guru self, the prophet self, that telling you can't do this, it can't be done. And then you've got the ego in the middle that's equilibrium. That's your balancing point. Like, we can't quite do that, but we can't quite be doing that either. So let's find a compromise between the two. But see if that your ego is misplaced because of the conditioning process, and you get a warped sense of self. You're not sure about what parts of you are accepting, what parts aren't, and it creates conflict in the mind,
confusion,
and you're constantly in turmoil, and you've got all this emotional turbulence. You live in a cycle of guilt and fear and shame. Do you know what I mean? So
which takes us right back to this whole fucking COVID macaroni bullshit. But it's doing the same thing.
He's got an agenda, hasn't he? But so that's.
I totally get it. I totally understand it now. Obviously, there's more to that. And to get you to walk that path, being the most prominent part, yes, I agree with that. Because you have to identify, you have to bring the saccharin to the front. And the way I talk about it, I've never done a 12-step program. I've never understood a 12-step program. But the fucking theory behind it is the exact same. You're carrying guilt, shame, and shite. You're not carrying a bag with all the good gear, because that's in the Akashic record. That's in the bank. The shite. You are the one that's chosen to drag that with you, and until you swing it round at step 4 and start going through it all.
Aye, and unloading and taking the bricks out the bag. My sponsor used to say, right, you're taking the bricks out the bag and you're looking at parts of yourself, right? So they were really, as I said, there's some parts that's really beneficial, right? Other parts of it not so much that I don't really agree with. But the step 4 is where the work happens, right? And you get that level of self acceptance, and you feel elevated and powerful, and you're empowered after this point, because you've opened the box and let all this stuff out.
Pandora's box,
and somebody else. That's what you exactly my sponsor's words, like Pandora. You've opened Pandora's box, right? So and we're going through that, right? So you go through that process, and then it's just about expanding on that over the next few steps, right? Then you get to step 8.
You're owning it.
Well, it's only when you get to step 8, it's about all the people you fucked over, all the bad things you've done, right?
Yeah.
So, let's see, I'll get your load. Where are we?
Fascinating, isn't it? Because even
well,
I'm
we're
trying
going
to
for
say-
4 to 8 here.
Well, what I'm telling, what I'm saying to you is that as a child, this is only me at work to. I've never read that book. I've no idea, and I've never met your sponsor or anybody else that would refer to any hurts or anything that I've had as me forming them into a brick because it's the most durable, resistant fucking thing, and I build a wall and I hide behind it. And you're saying, oh, this guy too. I've never met this guy. I've no idea. So where does my thought process come from? Because you had mentioned something earlier about a river. Well, what if I'm in Shit Creek? And it's all there around the book, mate. And I look and, oh, there's a big lumpy jobby. What's under? Oh, I'm not touching that. Me, I will fucking look. I don't give a fuck. And I find the brick process and I use that in myself. And then I come through the back of the hedge and I'm like, right, I'm ready to talk. And you're like, aye, but this guy already says it. He's been talking about these bricks. He's been talking about monkeys. No, Mr. Chimp Paradox Man. And it's the validation for me. Like, am I making this up by picking, I'll take his wee bit and I'll just make it all up into this lovely wee fucking snow globe that you can shake and say, no, because my thing with the creator and the ether and everything is, why do you have to do it the hard fucking way if it's already been done? Because it cheapens my experience to know that somebody else has already done it. You're like, could you not tell me that? And I wouldn't have to spend 5 fucking years working it out.
But everybody wants their own process, but do you know what I mean?
I get that as well.
But it tells you, and all right, it's back to what I talked about earlier on about people, your thoughts not being individual. Like you're no a unique snowflake. Everybody, people have had the same thought process as you, and they've been through the same issues. It's just in your mind it becomes overwhelming, and it makes it your issue and yours alone because nobody else could understand you, and that's what you tell yourself. Do you know what I mean? But it turns out that it's no. Do you know what I mean? So it just shows you that it's like regardless of experience, where you've done 12-step programs, counsel, whatever it is, you still come to the same conclusions. So something about it must be right.
It's the same fucking journey, but there's that many fucking paths to get to the end result. And that, for me, is why is there 12 steps going that way, or I've got 18 steps going that way, and James has got to go under it to come up over it and cross it. We're all going to the same fucking place. And if it's that elevation of the mind, I want to know, how can it not be done quicker? Why does it take you 18 months? Why does it take me 30 odd fucking years? And James seems to be, he's the guy that's whipping it like that. And that's what I'm saying to him. It's not that I'm jealous, I'm just like, fucking hell.
But
if it could be done
the
that
beauty
much quicker.
is no everybody's got 3 guys to talk to. No everybody's got an Alan. No everybody's got a Tony.
Sponsor
you know,
as well.
It's a sponsor, but
if his sponsor,
but if you pick up the phone and you can't get that sponsor for 2 weeks, where are you ending up?
That's exactly.
That's funny you say that, because I used to know a guy at meetings that said his phone was his higher power.
Yeah,
because you could phone somebody else and speak through his shit, and it would break his cycle of thinking. So it just shows you, it's just everywhere speech.
That's again, it validates us coming through here to meet you, because I've always wanted to know, and I'd say that to you, that because my mind needs to understand this, because right now it's the most juvenile fucking thing that I have. It wants to know. So again, once a man and twice a child. I played the man once, but I've twice been, because the child is the closest thing to source. As far as I'm concerned. So the monkey, he's primeval, but the child, he's the one that absorbs, and that's where I am now. I want to absorb it on. I see the way you've absorbed everything around about you, for being this, that, and every other fucking label that society will give us, and you've just went, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, give me more. And that is what if I could bottle that, then rather than having to, right, okay, I'm Alan, I'm a fucking idiot, or I'm James and I'm an alky, a junkie, whatever I want to be, there's a boat like that. Just fucking have some of that done, and it's done. But why has evolution not led us to that, or is that where we're going? That's maybe
it could be. This is back to the whole process of like the whole talk of emotional evolution in society as a whole. Are we becoming more self-aware? Are we understanding that, like, how the conditioning process works and all this other stuff? Are we understanding that we are more than we're made out to be? Yeah. And life's not as complicated as it is. We're no individual. We're no alone in this. You know what I mean?
We're all part of the same. We're
all part of the same puzzle. We're all trying to figure this out together.
So your own puzzle.
Same thing, but it's all part of the same. We're all muddled in this together, and it's about creating some sort of self-understanding and helping others get there as well. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. When you've done the journey and you've got the nugget, and you're like, right, okay, I've got the nugget. Rather than being a selfish bastard, I can see in every one of your TikToks, the way you talk, the way you're doing the book, the process and methodology behind the book, that you're like that. Yeah, that's my fucking contribution to humanity. I want to help people. I didn't want people to go through a 12-step program. I didn't want them to be carrying this fucking luggage and all the same things that I'm trying to say, because when I'm thinking, am I the only daft cunt that's out here? No, it's fucking freezing out here. And then I see you and you're like, hey, hang on, I'm not the only daft cunt out here. And then he starts then you're like, oh, hang on, I think there's a few of you fucking idiots out here.
There's
And
more than you think, man.
But when you go back to that other one,
frightening.
the sanity. Well, is this going to be the fucking lunatics taking over the asylum?
No, I think it's realised the lunatics realising they're no lunatics.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's why we take over the asylum.
Back to
There's
my
no
point.
madness, there's
Back to my
no-
point earlier.
You know what I mean? So,
Not one of us is fucking delusional.
no.
No,
But
not at all.
But you're fed to the idea
You're
of delusional
yes,
because you
it
don't,
was- it
because
was
you don't
fed into
conform
that
to
system.
a social ideal that doesn't really exist.
No.
Because you're fed false ideals and false imagery, and to keep you productive, because they feed that. Because society needs you to be productive. It feeds off low self-esteem and insecurities to feed you a life that isn't possible. Do you know what I mean? An idea of perfection that doesn't really exist. But I remember seeing it was a guy who used to be a school teacher, and he said we stopped at the socialisation process, and he was saying you're born and you just want to be happy and live your life, and you say can I be happy? And the world says no, you need to go to nursery, you need to learn social norms and values, you need to learn how to be a person.
Yeah.
So you go through that process and you say, can I be happy now? No, you need to go to school, you need to learn a new set of rules, new social norms and values, you need to do that. Can
Programming.
I be happy then? No, you need to go to secondary school, and it continues. You need to go to uni, you need to be married, you need to buy a house, you need this car, you need that car.
Tick every fucking
Fucking
box.
And you're constantly chasing an idea of happiness that not only doesn't exist, but you're told you're not allowed to have because you don't conform to a certain
It's a
ideal.
certain, yeah.
Take it on, rewind it back. There are the box ticking things that you have today. You go to the school, you go to the nursery, and then where do you go? You got to get primed in the primary school because they're going to show you what routine and structure actually is, and you're going to abide by this. And then what do they say? No, fast forward to the digital age and mobile phones and blah, blah, blah. Okay, people, we need to think outside the box. The biggest revelation for me is what the fuck are you doing in a box? But then when you take the box ticking exercises and you think, fucking hell. No, that's where I'm saying I'm out in the cold and I'm looking in the window at everybody that's saying these things and think, no, the latest buzzword, or certainly the last couple of years, was, okay, people, right, moving forward. And my mind is saying, who the fuck moves backwards? Why would you want to go backwards in life? That's no evolution. That's revolution. You're just chasing your tail like some mad fucking dog that's got a clinker on his arse.
But that's why they call it the wheel. The wheel's always
Oh,
turning.
definitely, my wheels are my wheels, and
The
that
wheels
takes
always
you to a
turning.
whole new spiritual realm.
But it takes me back. But it takes me back to another point, right? It was when I was at college and I was doing sociology, right? And this wee guy you met first was a brilliant sociology lecturer. And I think he was wasted. He was university level and he was teaching at college. I thought, definitely.
Again, keeping your books in, stay in your lane.
The guy really knows his stuff, right? And he taught us about this thing. It was a theory. It was called the counter school culture by a guy called Paul Willis, a sociologist called Paul Willis. And what he was taught about was teenage boys that seemed to know that there was a system and they were being controlled and manipulated, and they chose not to play. And they cultivated the Rainbow Society where they committed criminal acts and hooliganism and adopted all these negative behaviours, right? But they were still feeding into the system because
Play the game.
after they'd done that, they instead of going outside at school and educating themselves, they got a job, they started paying taxes, they got married, had weans, and still fell into the same thing. So they were still being socialised by the idea of productivity. So they were still doing it even though they thought they weren't. So this shows you society's all encompassing. You know what I mean? So
that's why I'm saying, no, me adhering to the mask, me adhering to the rules and the regulations and everything else. Man's law. I put a seatbelt on. We've had the conversation. I'll put a seatbelt on in my car. I'm not putting that seatbelt because I plan to go through the fucking windscreen. I never have that thought. Like, maybe go through the window today. I'll put my seatbelt on. No, it's man's fucking laws. Man's law will try and nail me in my purse. 60 quid, what for? For not putting that seatbelt on, but I'm not planning on crashing. I didn't want to go through the fucking window. The helmet on the motorbike. It's all these things that are the entrapment, and what they've done is they've managed to evolve to a stage where we've got you by the purse strings. We'll take your fucking money, and that's everything is on money. I didn't do anything untoward. I play his game, and I will play by it all the time. And that's why when the policeman says to me, "Oh, Alan, have you got any identification?" You've just told me my own fucking name. Why do you need identification? There's my driver's license. You any other idea? What is the photo no fucking good enough for you? I've had that conversation with a policeman, and you know what they say to me? "Oh, calm down now, calm down. You da. Like, but why the fuck are you distrusting me? You've got a photograph with my license, so I clearly know that no, that's me. And you've actually told me my own fucking name. Have you got any identification, Alan? So you know who I am." See when they get that and they upset the monkey wants to just fight because you're like, listen, don't fucking put me in a category with the rest of the fucking bandpots that'll no answer you back because I'm no that guy. That's me taking the veneer down and showing them, listen, wrong fucking guy, so I'll no adhere to your rules. I can't do it. Like you're saying, that social experiment, he trying it, but then they all conform. I conform, but didn't for 1 minute doubt that I'm no playing the game because it's his fucking game. And if I choose to rebel, where'd I end up? I ended up in Clinkerbum fucking jail, being an asshole, depriving my daughters of their dad, my wife of her husband, all these things. So yeah,
because they know that's the threat. They know that because society's fucked, but it's the only society we've got. We're dependent on it because we're that deeply engrossed in it. So like everything you spoke about money, everything in our life revolves around money. That's it, because we've nailed what life without it. People say money doesn't buy happiness, but try living without it. Try being happy without money. It doesn't exist. It's not a real thing.
You go off grid, go to self-sustainability. No, not so much in the let's become hippies, but if I'm a guy raising chickens and you're a guy planting tatties and he's a guy planting corn, we can get together and have a good fucking meal. It's not going to cost us fuck all bad labour.
But the thing is, I've got a theory that money was invented by lazy bastards, right? It's like lazy bastards with good patter, right? Because they went to the guy with the chickens, the guy with the tortoise, and the guy with the corn, and they've went, no what, see all your stuff, all that's worth this wee special stone. And see if you give me some of that, I'll give you all this. And that's it. So there you go, no bother. Alright, okay, so I'll take something of value and give you fuck all. It's all part of the illusion, isn't it?
And that
it's part of the illusion, aye.
There's the guy's defining, and he's the one that talks about the giver of divinity. And he says you've got the men sitting at the crossroads and they've got together and they're going to have a decent meal. Oh, you get your chicken out, I'll get my ties, I'll put the corn, let's build a fire. Over the wall is a wee man that's go fuck all and he's starving. And that's where you'll get the deceiver. You'll get the snake, the rat, the rodent fucker will come out and say, no, I'll go and, because he'll be like, bring him over. I'll get him. He'll go over and he'll do a deal with him. He'll come over and the guy will be so fucking thankful that he's had a great meal and thanks very much, guys. But what they didn't understand is that the fucking rat has went over and says, listen, you plough my field and we'll invite you. No bother at all. But see if he had fucking thought about it, and this is the evolutionary thing, if the rat hadn't exposed himself, if he thought about it, the guy would have come over, had the meal and say, listen, buddy, I'll tend to your chickens while I'm picking your corn and I'll dig your tatty field, because you guys are fucking real deal. But a greedy bastard has went in and put a fucking... Do you know what I mean?
But that's because, but then again, that could be because some people judge people by their own standards, right? So see if you've got that sort of rat manipulative mentality, right? Somebody would need to manipulate you into doing something for them. So you feel you need to manipulate other people into doing something for you, whereas people would just stay happily because
it's a perpetual fucking cycle that is a shit one. The dog chasing its tail.
Well, that's where they come up with what would you call it? Again, the pay it forward ideology, right? Where it's like you do a random act of kindness for 3 people, and then they in turn do another random act of kindness for another 3, and then another 3, and it grows exponentially. And next thing you know, we've got a society based on kindness.
Is that no evolution?
Exactly, that's my point. But
fucking right.
So, and I think that's what we're working towards. Where people are becoming more aware.
That's my hope.
You know what I mean?
My hope is that. I mean, obviously, we've been 2 fucking monkeys sitting in a cage, rattling this shit, coming out and meeting you and seeing that you still have the same modus as we do, that the thought process is for the betterment of humanity. It's not us trying to do anything for any other reason. I didn't like listening to my own fucking voice. It's certainly not a big thing for me, and I would never have done it had James no says, look, why don't we just switch on the button and see what we get away with. And then obviously meeting yourself and seeing that to me is the evolutionary side of man. It's us going back to the basic foundation and first principles. Why the fuck are we here? Are we really here to go on this treadmill that is so shite that my granddad and his dad did, and you chase it all back to see doing the same fucking thing? You eke a living and you pop your clogs. You all go in the same boats, the same fire, whatever it is. Why not do something along the way? And like you're saying, 3 random acts of kindness. If karma is out there, it's going to be watching them anyway, and it will reward you. And I think we know that it does, because you've done that much bad, and then you admitted, no, Lord, I am a fucking sinner. Whatever you've done to admit to yourself, this is wrong, then you do everything to change that. So you have to, by stage 4, go backwards and readdress every bit. So you open every fucking, oh, fuck, I can't believe what's in there. Oh, I need to do it. If I want to be the better person, do it. And then you do it. And that's where I'm saying, you get to your age, you turn back. There isn't, no, out there is an untold. What's back there is that's the story. This is the absolute bonus. Where you go for here in life is an absolute bonus, and it is for me as well. So if you turn back and you look at the path and you say, I've opened every door there, so I'm going to write my wee book. I'm going to put it there, and I'm hopefully going to inspire that one person, that one random act of kindness, because I didn't want nothing but to know that somebody's picked that up and has thought, I'm looking at all these doors, and I didn't want to go that way. I'm quite happy to listen to this guy and understand that he has come full fucking circle, and that is evolution, because you've went right round. Again, it comes back to the theory of the circle, the wheel, whatever you want to call it. And that's where the guy invents the wheel. Does he keep it to himself, or does he say to the other guy, no, watch what I done? And it comes rolling along.
What would be the purpose of a wheel if you kept it to yourself? But see, it'd just be a fucking thing.
It's a patency. You put the patency on a fucking Hoover, a fancy ass Hoover, and then, do you know what I mean? That's no evolution. That's nailing people to the fucking floor rather than saying, oh, listen, this is what you do. Yeah, but it's no helping anyone. No benefiting anyone. And that whole thing, I love the analogy with the Hoover, because it's the best one. The guy makes it and he's so proud of it, he's fucking chuffed with it. And how long? I reckon it'll last for 10 years. We'd buy that off you, and you patent it. You sign it off so nobody else can change it. But is there any way we could maybe cheapen the parts? What if you used plastic against that lovely shiny metal? No, it would only last 2 years. Exactly.
That'll do.
Because they'll come back in 2 years when it's fucking broken. If you give them 10 years, they're not coming back.
But that's a disposable society, because it keeps it turning.
Exactly, but that's the revolution. That's no fucking evolution. That's no benefiting by productively moving on and up the scale where everybody learns and it becomes so much easier. It's a horrible place that we've ended up in. But yeah, hopefully the fucking idiots like us are the ones that can maybe change it. Just take a tiny wee bit, just for that one, for the grassroots. And saying, look, there's no need for this. We didn't have to do this. At some point, somebody's going to wake up and say, where are these cunts? Where do they think they are to challenge our system? The system's broken, mate. It's been broken for a long fucking time.
But I think a lot of people realise that. I think a lot of people realise how broken the system is. And
that's why we're sat here today.
Exactly, right. But the thing is, the difference is, a lot of people realise that the system's broken, but they live in a constant state of apathy where they know things could change, but they're comfortable where they are. Yeah. They watch the X Factor. They smash a Chinese or an Indian, and they sit on the couch and they don't do much. It's like Wally with the fat people in the floaty chairs.
That's it. You know what I mean? My wife will tell you the exact same thing. I say all the time. That's what they're driving us towards, where everything's disposable and it's right there. It's at your fingertips.
And that you're enclosed because your head's in your phone and you're not looking. You've got a mask on. Your head's in your phone and you're not looking at anybody else. And next thing you know, you've got tunnel fucking vision. And not just that, you're indoctrinated with the idea that you're chasing an ideal and life's a competition. Yeah. So you're in this on your own, and it becomes every man for themselves, and it becomes ruthless. So you're completely encapsulated and you're isolated, and next thing you know, we're all in the house in a chair watching a screen. That's where we're stuck. Yeah. I mean,
the AI's moved from the telly to your hand, to your tablet. It's getting closer to you all the time to controlling you. You know, it's, and the AI's controlled by man, but now they're shitting themselves because AI's gone out. You know, it's not stoppable now. It's like the internet. You can't turn it off now.
No, it's developed its own consciousness.
Its own consciousness.
Musk, you know what
I mean? I mean, that boy will tell you himself. He's one of the creators, and he's like, told them not to switch it on. Tell them.
I see the nefarious side of what they've done by cooking the brains, but I also see where it's used benefiting me, you, Tony, and how many other people. And again, it's that resonance is lifting. We're lifting above asshole man's technology, above his, because like you say, all that technology was created by an asshole, a man who wanted big bucks. He wanted to design it, But if you take the spiritual side, where did he get the idea from? He didn't fucking wake up with it. He did wake up with it, but it was planted as a seed into his head to help mankind. But he's talking,
I can make money for
bastard, I can make money for
But leaving that, right, see, we're talking about the idea of evolution, right? If you look at the AI idea, right, that's just an expansion of that, of evolution, right? So I know there's obviously there's the capitalistic side of it, it's make money and all that other stuff, but see if you look at it just as consciousness, there's positive and negative forms of consciousness, and AI is just another form of consciousness. So
that's what I'm saying. There's got the cameras, the cameras.
There's got a positive negative aspect of that as well as there is of your own mind. It's just another extension of humanity.
For anybody listening, the whole point of covering the cameras on a device was somebody else saying, I didn't want them looking at me, whereas I'm saying, take it off. Have a look, because I don't think there's a nefarious side behind it, because we can use it. If it's the street light, have you ever heard my yellow street light theory?
No.
All the schemes were fully yellow street lights. If you do your colour stuff, too much yellow light will make you angry. And I think that was a thing within the rat race to see what these monkeys will do. Make their hooses. Like your hoose looks over that way. If this was in where I grew up, the front windies are looking at
Oh, you're
each
right,
other's
aye.
windy. Two
Aye.
monkeys will fight. They
Uh-huh.
just need to look at each other. You'll blink, you know, you fucking looking at. That's how they've conditioned us to think that. They put the yellow street light over, but the fucking monkeys got wise and started using the street lights to our advantage. And they're like, well, that doesn't work. Now they changed all the street colours. Why? Same thing. If they've thought that by spying on us and keeping us right now, here's 3 of us, there's devices here, they can pick up everything we're saying.
Hope they can.
We give it. Come on, fucking in. Pull up a
That's
chair.
it.
Because
You might learn
you're
something.
you're no getting in. That's what I'm saying. Our minds are of that new conditioning that it has to be right back to that first principles. How do you think like that? How do I think that? How does James think like that? And how many other people are thinking like that? Because the system is broken. The formatting hasn't clearly fucking worked. And why? Because they're designed by society, creating this society where they thought they would get us all to kill each other, hasn't worked. Because you rebelled for 4-year-olds, you rebelled for 8-year-old, and I rebelled for 7. How many other fuckers have rebelled?
Exactly.
They think that we're daft because we're not educated. We're far fucking smarter than them, that we didn't get educated because you've not formatted me. I didn't follow your rules. I didn't follow your system. I'll play along with your game, but only until such a time as somebody says, look, game's over, boy. It's up the pole. The game's up the pole. It's fucking done. Nobody's falling for this claptrap bullshit anywhere. There is no need for everything that you've listed. That heroin. Where did heroin come from? Was it the guy up the street invented it in his back garden? No, it was dropped in with a fucking briefcase. Ecstasy, same thing. AIDS. Was AIDS actually a man pumping a monkey in the jungle?
I watched a video on it, right? Again, it was a guy, it was a lecturer for the World Health Organisation. This was decades ago when AIDS first became a thing. And there was somebody for the audience asking the question about how he created AIDS. How
it evolved.
How scientists created AIDS in the lab. It was a lab-borne virus, and the guy said, you use parts of chicken leukemia and different elements of the flu virus. Now you created it, and the guy was stumped. He couldn't answer the question. So it just shows you. I don't know how much it's true, but there's different takes on it out there. Do you know what I mean?
The story we got in the 80s was that, and then when you look at what it attacked,
I was guys pumping monkeys, not meant
that's
to.
what I said. That was
Pump
the original
monkey.
one.
Speaking of monkeys, I'm going to
there
shut
again.
these monkeys up for a minute. We are 1 hour in. I'm going to stop there.
Well, listen,
I'm going to hit the button.
100%.
You're very well.
Listen, if you're in a hurry, we only got to step 4. Just saying, guys, just saying. Anyway, I'm going to play us out with this.
That was a big bang.
That was a big bang on the button.
The monkey's in control.
Brian. Monkey's dying for a pee. On you go, pal. It's your house. Need the final word. It's your gaff.
Yeah, no, if you want to keep going, mate. What do they usually go for?
Doesn't matter. Goes for as long as we want to go. But jump on that mic in a minute. Say something.
James, you keep putting me on the spot here, mate. I'm not sure what to say, but I'd just like to say this has been a surprising and enjoyable afternoon. I'll be honest, I was a bit apprehensive before you turned up, lads. I bet me was like, I hope these guys fucking cancel, and my anxiety got the better of me. I'm glad you didn't.
Superb, mate.
Yeah.
Superb.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes.